Hey everyone, this is smpratte, and today we're going to talk about a topic that I think transcends collectibles, and that is chasing the stonk. This is going to be another long-term versus short-term conversation. And what I mean by chasing the stonk is if you think about soccer when you're younger, like kindergarten to first grade, it's like a bunch of kids chasing the ball around the field in a big huddle. That's what I think of about chasing the stonk. That's the type of play you'd expect from that level of experience. Where if you compare that to people who've been doing something 10 to 20 years, you have something like the Premier League, which is the highest level of play. So you see the obvious long term versus short term. And I don't think there's ever been a time where this is more relevant than now. The short term is at its shortest. People want to be rich in light speed. They want to get rich quick, like Nas boosted, steroid injected. And, chasing this stonk can come in many forms now. Chasing that ball around the field can now be in the form of a Pokemon card. It could be an NFT, crypto, a meme stock. There's so many get rich quick maneuvers that exist now that I think ultimately distract people and they don't realize that they're chasing and hopping from one thing to another, and the years go by and they end up not getting the returns or results they wanted. And so they're most likely left with just frustration. Where this side over here, if you're doing finance and DCAing every day or every week or every month or every year, or if you're just doing a hobby that you enjoy consistently over time, you're at least moving forward in a direction. And why I'm saying this is because I've been on both sides of the fence. And I think there's like a special type of frustration that exists now post 2020 online where you have these people chasing the stonk. And I see it now more in Pokemon. And at first I was confused. I'm like, why are so many people like hating on vintage or hating on Charizard or whatever thing it is? And I realized it's because they just chase the stonk and it just happens to be now Umbreon or Charizard or an Eevee or whatever it may be, Van Gogh Pikachu. They are here because of the stonkage and they're not here like most of the other people were prior for the artwork or the history or the appreciation. And again, why I'm saying this is because I've been on both sides. I'm saying this out of empathy because I understand how it was to be 19 and frustrated and going to college and not knowing anything I wanted to do. My entire life in front of me was nothing but darkness. I still don't know what I want to do for a career, but what got me through that was going down this path in the form of collecting Pokemon. I started buying stuff that I grew up with and it just snowballed from there. I got really into it and I just really loved it and it fulfilled me just like it does today. And why I'm saying this is not to pat myself on the back of any way. I'm just one data point of like probably billions of people who've gone down this road of incremental time over and over. Mbappe is it at the top because he trained every day at his academy, every day at his club for decades, day in, day out. If he had been playing street ball, nutmegging people and trying to be the best juggler, he might have been the halftime show at the Premier League, but he wouldn't be playing in it. And that's the difference, is that you want to be more on this side. You don't have to be high level success of Mbappe. It's just, even outside of finance, just being a happier, like content person. Because when I'm seeing this hate in Pokemon, especially for like vintage, I don't know what vintage did to some people, but that level of hate is clearly not about the cards. There's something else going on there, and I think it's this chasing the stonk. And I think it's also a way to like jab at the establishment. I think that's another thing that's going on because when I see even it thrown at me, like the bag holder, Pratt, like whatever, protecting his investments, it's like, guys, you're like 10 years too late. Like, let me just throw some numbers at you so you understand like the gravity of like how little I paid for most of this stuff. Like that Umbreon that sold recently, Players Umbreon, I didn't sell it. It sold for like 120K or something like that. I remember when someone offered that card with the Espeon, with the Vaporeon, Jolteon, Flareon, Porygon, Eevee, Magikarp fan club, and we're doing a whole Poke Wrap. Like all the Players Club, all the fan club card, all of it together, $1,700. Less than $2,000 for cards now that are probably worth like who knows, like can we say 200,000 easily? Like that's just one example. Like the Kangaskhan is another one I think really captures this mixture of like chasing the stonk frustration and it being shot at like who I don't know why. Like somebody posted that 144,000 Kangaskhan on Instagram, literally just saying it sold for this price, and you had a guy in there who was like just losing his mind, like going into conniption, like to the point of like criticizing the design of the Kangaskhan. Like, why are you in Pokemon if you don't like Pokemon? Again, they're chasing the stonk and they're probably frustrated. Because ultimately, it's like, I don't care that I'm the owner or the seller, I guess. And I bought it for like $3,500 back earlier when I said I started doing this, a long time ago. And I think that's the point. If you're only here for the money and that's all you're tuned in for, that's how you make a substantial return. You either need intense capital or time. There's no way to shortcut that. There's no way. Everybody wants to be the guy, I don't know his name, with the red bandana who timed GameStop right, before it memed up and went straight up. That's an anomaly. where there are probably some opportunities today that could be the Kangaskhan. It might not be the Kangaskhan, it might be something else, but you won't be able to achieve that if your focus is just moving from one stonk to the next. Back then, let's keep going with the Kangaskhan analogy, there was no indicator it was going to explode. My first purchase of one of those cards was like 07, 08. That was one of the earliest trophy cards I remember buying. And it was so special for me because I wanted that thing so bad. It finally appeared. And that's it. That's where it ended. There was no indicator of monetary gain. Certainly no indicator of social gain. Like, you had to hide in you had to be a closet collector back then. There was no way you could talk about it. You had to pretend you didn't like it. But my point is that holding it that long, whether it's 100,000, 10,000, 50, whatever the number is, that's the bigger point there is just the process. That's the bigger point. Where if I moved on from then one stonk to the next, it would have been gone. Even sticking with something like crypto, like let's pump Bitcoin's tires for a second. Back then when I bought that Kangaskhan, crypto was like nothing. It was pennies. And if you bounce from one thing to the other, you would have sold it all for your Domino's pizza like a lot of people did. But if you did the exceptional thing and held it over time, then you could cash it out over here and make, the exceptional return. But again, I think people misconstrue that and they don't see the 10 to 20 years of hard work behind it. Like when you look at Messi or Mbappe or all these legends and all these, especially these prodigies, you don't see the exceptional work behind it all. You see the exceptional end result. And you think because it's all there and you can quickly scroll through it and it's always being, pumped at you all the time that you can easily get it, but you can't. There's a process behind this, and that process is the most important part. So again, why I'm saying this is out of empathy, because I see a lot of people chasing the stonk, not just in collectibles, but in so many other categories. And another thing I want to throw out there is that if you're chasing the stonk, you're already too late. If it's already stonked and gone to the moon, you're already too late. It might go up a little higher at some point, whatever, and that's what you're banking on. But you're banking on that last bit of fuel in the tank, right? Where if you're really looking at this, not only just from a financial perspective, but just you're trying to enjoy yourself and be fulfilled in life, that incremental path of going forward, that's the way. That's the answer. Because this chasing the stonk around the field, again, you're just going to be like a halftime show. That's the maximum level of that, It's not something that's replicable, where this side is, especially when you get into finance and classical investing. That guy, I don't know the red bandana guy's name. It's like Cat something or whatever. And more power to him. Again, he's more to the side. Everyone thinks it's this, but it's not. He's not the short term. He's someone who had to buy before. These Bitcoin millionaires or whatever, whoever it is, whether it's collectibles, Bitcoin, stocks, Warren Buffett, it's all on this side. That's it. That's it. And, for people who win the lottery or whatever it is, it's that's improbable luck. You have a better chance of getting struck by lightning from Pikachu doing Thunderbolt twice than you do of actually winning the lottery. That's the reality. And I'm not trying to be Buzz Killington here, but I feel like sometimes I'm obligated to be Pokedad. And part of this is just because I feel for the frustrated people. Even the people who throw shade at me, my first reaction is laughing, but then the second one is I think I know where this is coming from, because it's not actually about Pokemon. There's more to it. And I think part of it's cutting the, nipping at the ankles of established people maybe, or frustration that's coming from you're not doing what you want. I don't know. There's something there, because I remember that feeling. When I was in college, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And the thing that got me through it again, and for me, it was in the form of Pokemon. For other people, it might be in the form of sports or reading or yoga or, sports cards or magic. I don't know. There's so many options over here, but the bottom line is that's it. There's multiple paths to this destination. This isn't a path. This is just chasing a tail. Chasing stonks is like chasing a tail. And I guess the last thing I want to say here is, I think this herd mentality is also hurt mentality. I think there's a lot of people who seek out that same wavelength of yeah, F this, screw this, whatever, and, even eat the rich, which again, I've been on both sides. When my dad made 30 grand with 3 kids, I didn't know I was going to be told eat the rich, 15 years later. I think it's really tough for people to understand, again, the process that's behind the end result. Everyone sees the end result and plugs in. It's oh yeah, rich, someone who has $1 million, same as Paris Hilton. It's well, there's a big gap between those 2 points. And I think a lot of people miss that, because again, when you're chasing the tail and chasing the stonk, you're not really developing the vocabulary, in this case, financial vocabulary, to understand those degrees. And I think that's something that's lacking right now. It's very difficult to do, because one last thing, you're pressured and influenced to be more reactionary, right? If you disagree with something in this video, it's to be reactionary. It's to get the most vinegary, spicy response, name calling thing as you can, rather than actually think it through. that's what's encouraged now. It's reaction, reaction, reaction. So I think that's even more to this point about short-term focus. It's not just finance, it's also just like society or however you communicate now. Everything's so reactionary. And I think that's why people struggle to separate, at least in Pokemon, like the large sales that come from like years of holding a card, or maybe immense capital that allows you to buy something and make a move with it quickly. There's no way to escape those realities. Like you can't ever like get through that. Like there's no one, like even Gary and his Charizards. Yeah, he might have bought some of those for like $500 or whatever, but they're worth what they are today because he held them for like 20 years. That's it. And there's something today that might end up being that. That's just what it is. So anyway, I hope this is useful in some way. I know it's very like free flowing, off the cuff, like emotional type conversation, but I think it's really relevant to where we are. And I just have a soft spot for people that are frustrated, because I feel like collectibles at the end of the day are like a safe space away from like all the bullshit in real life. Like, let's keep it real. Like, it's a way to really just enjoy something and share it with other people. And I want to encourage more of that than like, just ripping people apart for liking a different card. Because again, back in the day, it was like, oh, you like the black and white era, I like this era, but I don't like it as much as you, but I get it because, we're still connected in the same universe and stuff. So anyway, there it is. That's what I have, guys. Hopefully this video is useful. I know it's a little bit different, but as usual, the deal. Let me know how I feel. That's pretty much it. Till next time.